Actually a response video to an individual who has been very egregious and aggressive in his uh, ploy to try to get to a debate with Dave Smith, a famous libertarian comedian, who basically has been debating the issue of Israel, Palestine, and Ukraine for the last couple of years. But most notably, in the last couple of days, there's an individual who is a self-professed Christian Zionist of sorts. He's a proud patriot, according to him, and he's Maga, and all this labeling of himself. But there was a couple of posts of the days I saw from him. The first one being this one, um, where he basically says, I do not have a single fucking allegiance to country. This guy likes to curse. So I'm a New Yorker, so I like to curse too. But I mean, if you want to be taken seriously, convey your points without using profanities. I do not have a single fucking allegiance to the country of Israel. I'm not Israeli, but I am an American and I am a Christian. When I saw a fight going on between Islamic terrorists and the Jewish people, I remembered 9/11. I remember that Islam wants to convert or kill every Christian and Jew because of a 3,000-year-old holy war. They will never stop fighting until they're all dead. I also remember they chanted death to Israel and death to America. That was the first, and this was February 12th when I saw this. But today I saw another post that he made a couple of ones, but this one I wanted to point out too, where he basically says the following, and that is, I laid out my arguments in two separate posts, but you're clearly ignoring those, cherry picking the comments you want to reply to, and making a weak attempt to spin the facts. You haven't said anything of substance. You're a clown, bro. Go ahead and defend your position, simping out for Hamas, or don't, or stop the selective responses. You want a real debate when we can actually talk back and forth? Let me know, and I'll make you look worse than Chris Cuomo. If not, I don't care. Um, it's not how you imagine going out on a date. You see this girl you really like, and you're trying to win her over, and you say, "Yo, bro, why can't I fuck you?" Right? You just, get a dinner, grease up Dave Smith for a little bit here, right? Don't just come right in for the fucking kill. Uh, anyway, but that's the general experience I have with MAGA of this magnitude, this personality. And it's not a generalization either, because they're not all like this. Is that they lack self awareness. They are someone who is impulsive. Think later, react now type of people. And this guy basically claims he's a Christian. Now, I see these people from a mile away. There's a big red light. It's almost like when I see a Biden supporter, and they don't need the light because they already have a light on top of their head. It's either green, red, or purple, whatever the fuck color that they put on their head. But you see these people from a mile away because they're like gangs, right? They wear specific colors, like the Bloods and Crips, where they'll wear red bandana or purple bandana, blue bandana, right? Well, these people either wear Patriot, they have Patriot on their bio, they have MAGA, proud countryman, veteran, and then you have the people at the left with their 10,000 flags, and it's really Israeli Ukraine, their pronouns. It's so silly, but it's a tragedy because these people believe that the sum of what they are basically human constructs. Now, I'm not going to bore you to death, you know, about this, but let's get right to the point. There was a video this guy made. This is the Misfit Patriot, right? I don't know his real name. And I hate using, Misfit Patriot. I'll just call him Patriot, right? Um, he made a video. He has a YouTube channel. People are saying he's fake. He's a bot. No, he's the real deal, this guy. And I want to point something out later near the end of the video about what I find a little bit suspect about this guy. or is it basically just something that is connected to the subsect within the conservative uh, mindset? It's something that I pointed out a long time ago. But he made a video, and I want to show it to you. And this is not going to be an ad hominem type of video because I'm not going to use a curse word. I promised him this, but he's not willing to debate me. I mean, he wants big people. He wants Dave Smith, and I don't have Dave Smith's following, and I don't have his experience, and I'm just a small timer, and I doubt this guy's even going to watch my video. What the fuck does he care, right? Who am I? But anyway, I'm going to try and point out what I find questionable about what he said in this video. And it's basically going to be, it's a short video, it's 11 minutes. I'm not going to break down every single point, but you know me, I'm meticulous and, I'm anal when it comes to certain points. But, it's going to be basically based on his worldview and 9/11, where, that's where I study. So without further ado, let's read into it.
Was united in one fact. We were against terrorism.
All right, I played it. Let's go all the way to the beginning.
Yo, what the fuck happened to September 12th, 2001? What happened to that mindset? Because on September 12th, 2001, the entire country was united in one fact. We were against terrorism in all forms. Right now, Israel is going through their own 9/11, right? You can say whatever the fuck you want about a land grab in the 40s, but Israel are not terrorists.
All right. First mistake, right? I'm going to disagree with him here. 9/11 wasn't about Christianity versus Islam. Now, when you made that post that I showed before about 9/11 being a war against Christianity and Islam, had nothing to do with religion. Nothing. It was used as a front. Al-Qaeda uses religion as a front, but Al-Qaeda isn't religious. Not in the theological sense. To you, Islam is basically rudimentary. It's evil. It teaches people how to kill. They don't coexist with Christians. But you never read the Quran. In fact, you read maybe specific subsets related to the Quran and then translated by evangelical Christians that you agree with. You only watch and read things that are agreeable to you. This is, it's not basically your entire fault because you're brainwashed. Not to say that you're not the only one. And what I'm saying is that you have to step out of the Christian mindset. You have to step out of this white mindset. You have to step out of this, Republican mindset, because that's all they are. They're constructs. You're not born a Christian. You're not born white. You're not born a Republican. They're taught to you, right? Once you step out of these ideologies, you can actually see the world in a much more truer sense, which is not black and white. It's gray. It's not easily explained. Multiple variables revolving all constructs that have a history. And it takes a lifetime to learn it. Now, I've studied 9/11 for 17 years, and I know a small subsection of it, minuscule. I wouldn't even call myself an expert. I would say I'm a student. I always say I'm a student in these affairs because I'm always learning about it. But it leads into other subsections, learning about foreign policy regarding the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, ideology, Wahhabism, Christianity, Judaism. And then, you learn about the history of the intelligence services, the Department of Defense. It branches out into all these things. But that's what everything leads to. It's all a branch out effect. But if you only look at one subsection and you agree with this worldview and you cling on to it, you're loyal to this ideology, every other thing that contradicts it, you're not bothering. And this is what happened with the 9/11 Truth Movement, right? 9/11 Truth Movement basically saw 9/11 as an inside job. The government was behind it, or Israel was behind it, and they basically blamed Israel and the United States, and that's it. The Muslims were patsies, or they don't even exist. Why look into any other information? And you'll notice that every single major proponent of the Truth Movement no longer exists, for the exception of Richard Gage, who's hanging on desperately. But that's it. Nobody else exists. And the only ones who exist are skeptics like myself, or DJ Turner, Ryan Dawson, Sean Russell, Leonardo Salvaggio, and others, right? Darren Harvey, Project for New American Century, these guys. But there's very few. But to you, you make the mistake that terrorism is related to the 9/11 attacks. Yes, but not religious terrorism. What was 9/11? A response to what? What precipitated 9/11? What, you think that these hijackers just want to, create a caliphate within the United States and think that they're just going to take over by slamming planes into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and one into Shanksville? That's what's going to take. That's every bit as optimistic, hopelessly optimistic, as those who think they were going to, take over the government by, raiding the Capitol. The government isn't in the Capitol. Taking over the United States isn't destroying the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. You got to do a lot more than that. And it takes a lot more people than that. But what these are basically instigators, a response to what? Well, if you look at the videos of Osama bin Laden, of some of the hijackers who made video wills like I have, every single one of them state that what they do is in response to, not because you're a Christian, not because women wear short skirts, it's because of your foreign policy. Now, I'm not saying what they did was right. Ramzi Youssef bombed the World Trade Center in 1993. And I said, if you want to understand why he did this, instead of saying he's an animal, he's a savage, kill him, which is, a right response, what made him that way? I'm not saying what he did was right. What he did is wrong. Violence begets violence. Isn't that what your Christ says? Those who live by the sword die by the sword, right? Saul Alinsky, famous philosopher, once basically said that the action is in the reaction. Violence precipitates violence. Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, Muhammad Atta, Abu Baghdadi, Saif al-Adil, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, and others are products of what? A perversion of religion? Brainwashing, manipulation, and reaction to foreign policy. And what's at the top? In every fucking video they've ever made, we're attacking the United States because they support Israel in their foreign policy. The only group that disagrees with this is the Islamic State. I'm not going to get into that. But that's where you went wrong. Now, you say Israel's not a terrorist state. Well, what is the definition of terrorism? Terrorism is an organization or individual who uses violence to achieve a political goal or aim. Isn't that what Israel's doing? Israel is doing just that. In fact, they're doing what Hamas and Hezbollah and the Al-Qassam brigades and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad couldn't imagine doing, is killing 1 million Jews or 50,000 Jews. The Israeli military, under the power of the Israeli government, which is basically made up of Zionists and religious fundamentalists from the Oded Yehud party and the religious Zionism party, nut jobs like Ben Gvir, Ben Zalil Smotrich, right? These people basically just come right out and say, we want to kill every single Arab. We want to go, not just take over West Bank and Gaza, but also go into parts of Syria and Saudi Arabia for Greater Israel. That's an actual doctrine. So in that sense, Patriot, Israel can be seen as a terrorist state. You can't just sit there and say Al-Qaeda is a terrorist, Hamas is terrorist. Okay, fine and dandy. I agree with you, by the way. But the Israeli government are terrorists as well, under the definition I just gave you.
They're not murdering and raping women in the streets. Show me a fucking video of that. Show me a video of them going door to door and mowing down grandmas and children. Show me.
There are literally hundreds, no exaggeration. And for the very few, one or two people that know me, no, I don't exaggerate. Don't need to. I'm very boring, straight to the facts. That's it. No circus behind it. I'm nonpartisan. I'm not left or right. I don't consider myself white. I'm a human being. No human ideology defines me. So I'm straight to the point. There are hundreds of videos showing Israeli military killing women and children. Hundreds. It's on just based on Twitter alone. But you don't follow these accounts to know this because I looked at your profile. I see who you follow. You only follow people that are basically pro-Israel, pro-Maga. So you only see the world through a very narrow lens.
That. Some of you are taking the side of terrorists, and it's disgusting. I don't understand it. How is it that you're looking at what you're seeing on TV and going, no, well, it's not my problem because they did something back in 1947 that they shouldn't have done, and this is just the people of Palestine who are just trying to get their land back. They're just trying so hard to get what is rightfully theirs back. You don't know your history. You don't know your history. I might not. You might be right. You might be well versed in the history of the Palestine and Israel conflict, right? You might. I don't need to know history to know what.
There it is. That's it. That's it. Like I said before, this guy will only look at things that he finds agreeable in his worldview. I don't need to know the history. You sound just like a 9/11 truther, by the way. I don't need to know about bin Laden and Al Qaeda. I don't need to know about the history of two known Al Qaeda subjects in Khalid al-Mihdhar and Wahab al-Azmi inside the United States. I don't believe in hijackers. You don't believe in Palestinians. Palestine is not a country. It never was. I don't need to know the history. Yes, you do. You do. To know what you're talking about. Imagine this guy going up against Dave Smith. I mean, at this point in the video, I'm like, he doesn't even stand a chance, even against a layman, right? And this is the problem with these types of MAGA conservatives is that they just say things before even thinking. The one thing you could say about the left and vice versa, they'll think before they say it. I always said the left are smart criminals, where the right are the dumb criminals, but they have something in common, right? So this guy basically is just telling you, I don't need to know the fucking history, but I'm going to tell you about the history through my worldview. That's what he said.
What I see with my own eyes. Terrorists, Hamas, people that chant death to America, Iran, the Taliban, all of them, every single one of them, right? These are not people. These are animals.
There you go. That's how you dehumanize people. Right? Terrorists are people, but they're people like you. They're brainless. You just haven't used violence yet. Your personality is crazy, right? Force, right? You don't live under an oppressive ideology, even though you hate secularism. Even though the United States is built upon one of the greatest preemptions in that the founding fathers who escaped religious tyranny in not trying to pay a tax to the church as demanded by the government, they created a country in which the government would remain neutral toward atheists and those of the theist faith, where theists would be not interfered with by government in worship and vice versa. It's a great invention, so to speak. The freedom to worship or not worship. What makes part of this country great is that. But something tells me that's not enough for you. You want the government Christian. You want Christianity taught in all schools. And maybe that's as far as you'll go. But people like you give rise to even far more radicals. And that's what created the Taliban. That's what created Al Qaeda. That's what created every single Islamic terrorist organization through poverty, ignorance, and manipulation. You take a look at the most religious states in the United States are in the poorest states, poverty stricken, Alabama, Georgia, parts of Texas. That's the problem with people who espouse religious ideology, right? But they pervert it, and you are not a very good representative of Christianity. In fact, I would go on to say that you use Christianity as basically as a default position. And judging by your actions on Twitter, you hardly are a representative of Jesus Christ. You wouldn't be calling Dave Smith a fucking joke and calling everybody else a fucking asshole and, acting like this, saying that Arabs are terrorists. To understand the mindset of a terrorist, you have to empathize with one. Why are they doing this? I'm not saying, again, just so we're clear, I'm not saying you have to accept that their terrorism is a good thing. It's not, because it only precipitates violence. But to understand why they're doing it in the first place is to understand where the problem lies. It's not just one person.
Right? These are people that stone women in the streets. I think it's fucking hilarious that you guys were able to brainwash the left so much that you have queers for Palestine.
Oh.
Queers. The second any one of you people walked into Palestine, you would be thrown off a fucking roof. Do you know that? Do you know?
Have you heard what Christian evangelicals are doing in Africa? They're burning homosexuals. They castrate them. You got to see what the fuck they're doing over there. And that's all coming through the influence of the American evangelical church. Benny Hinn Ministries, Hagee, Copeland, all these others, prosperity gospel grifters, not even Christian, not even going to call them Christian, maniacs like Paula White, the white Taliban.
Your history? Do you know your history? Do you?
See, when you do this, how can anyone, in a serious setting, you can't be taken serious. Why would anyone take you serious? What's wrong with this guy?
Holy shit. We need to get back to the fucking mindset we had when we watched 3,000 people murdered by this ideology.
Yeah, let me talk about that just for a second, not to stop again and again. I lived in New York. I saw the towers collapse. I saw the attack of the second tower on my roof. And the mindset was, let's kill everybody that's involved. I don't care who it is. We could have went to war with Easter Island and we would support it. We need not to go back to that point. And this is the reason why we need cooler heads to prevail. And we needed an honest investigation. We didn't even get that. We had an incomplete one. We covered up the fact that Saudi Arabia was involved. Your government, by the way, Bush administration, allegedly Christian. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And they still do. The government that you support, in fact, Donald Trump, your boy, right? Donald Trump in 2016 told his Attorney General, Richard Barr, to classify documents relating to Saudi Arabia from the 9/11 victims' families who were suing Saudi Arabia in the Southern District of New York. Your boy. America first. What happened? I don't need to know my history.
The ideology that they are superior and everyone else is an infidel. That is what they think of the Israeli people. That is what they think of the Jewish people.
Have you seen what the Jews think of Palestinians? Let me, you know what? Hold on a minute here. Well, a video here, right? This is the former finance minister of Israel. I mean, Bezalel Smotrich. Okay, this is what this guy had to say regarding the issue of Gaza and the Palestinians. Translated to the English to the bottom.
התוכנית שהציג אתמול הנשיא טראמפ היא התשובה האמיתית ל-7 לאוקטובר. מי שביצע את הטבח הנורא ביותר על האדמה שלנו, ימצא את עצמו מאבד את האדמה שלו לתמיד. עכשיו נפעל כדי לקבור סופית בעזרת השם את הרעיון המסוכן של המדינה הפלסטינית. על מה שראינו ושמענו אתמול מהנשיא טראמפ צריך לומר תודה גדולה והרבה יותר ממילה טובה לראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו.
Yeah, okay. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this is worrisome. If this guy basically is saying this out loud, what do you think people after him are going to do? They're going to be even far worse. So that's just the finance minister. I have more videos relating to, you know, the groups like Religious Zionist Party or the Otzman Yehudit, right? These are religious fundamentalists. They come right out and say it. And why are they free to say it? Because nobody holds them responsible. In the same fashion, where you have the Islamic State, Hamas basically saying we'll kill every Jew possible. Yeah, you rightfully condemn them, but you don't got the guts to condemn people like him because, as you say, I'm not for Israel, but I'm against Islam. That makes you really basically an anti-Muslim or a racist, maybe a combination of both. But you don't got the guts to come right out and say it because you got to save face somehow. I mean, you're at this point. Why not just be more honest in your approach?
It's a fucking land grab. This isn't a land grab. This isn't about something that happened 60, 70 years ago. Are you shitting me? People are that fucking ignorant? No. This is about religion. This is about the people of Israel being a religious and good people that live a just life. That is the fucking Holy Land.
According to you, not to me. They're just a people living on a land. I mean, I know in your ideology, God is a land developer. And he gave a certain subsection of land to this particular people that represent him. Now, step outside of this for a second. The God of the universe, of the great and vast universe, and multiple universes, millions of universes, not the only one guy, picked out this insignificant dot within this specific universe and said, aha, I got these people representing me. This land belongs to them. Fuck everybody else. They're allowed to kill everybody involved, called the Hittites, the Ashmites, the, whatever, right? The Mennonites, kill them all and kill their livestock, kill the baby. You have my approval. And this relates to the current point in time. To anybody else outside this ideology, they would see you as a nut job. I'm atheist, but I'm not an anti-theist. I stepped out of mindset because I became the very people I criticized. The overtly religious, like you. No better. And so, no, I don't care for your brand of religion. I don't care about your ideology. I care about the human race. I have to, or I'll become a nihilist, right? Can't have that. And if I'm a nihilist, I'm watching the NBA All-Star game, which, by the way, is going to be in the future CIA playbook for torture regarding future detainees at Guantanamo Bay.
And if their religion doesn't align with yours perfectly, if you're a Catholic, Christian, even if you're a fucking Muslim, not all Muslims are bad. Terrorists are bad.
What is terrorist, right? I just gave you the definition of terrorism. And that relates to not just Muslims.
How can you see someone dragging women through the streets and even remotely think that that is okay because of a land grab?
You just described the Israeli IDF. In fact, not only do they drag Palestinian women through the streets, they also wear their clothes. And it's on Twitter. And it's embarrassing. I'm 55. I've never seen a military take over a country or take over a piece of land and wear the women's clothing as some sort of cell phone. I can't believe the Americans never did this that I know of. The Arabs don't do this. The Russians don't do this. The Ukrainians don't do this. But the Israelis do. And it's not one video. There are dozens of them. They take pictures. And you ever see, they don't even wear the men's clothing. They wear the women's clothing. And it is fascinating. I can't believe it. And this is not a generalization of the IDF, but my God, it's not just one instance, it's dozens. What goes through their mind? Yeah.
Because they were kicked out of their land. Do you hear yourselves? Yesterday I said I was only going to do this twice. No, we're doing it a third time because I think I need to hammer this into your fucking head.
Yeah, Christ would say that.
This isn't about who you support. And I'm not for supporting a war in Israel. I'm not for another endless forever war. We're not going to need to. Israel's fucking tough. They don't even...
They're so tough that they can't even beat Hamas while caged and without a standing military. Dude, what are you talking about? They lost to Hezbollah in 2006. You know why the Israelis have the United States? Because they use the United States military as their own military. I mean, they basically own Congress. Israel could never fight. Imagine them fighting Iran on their own. They would get crushed. This ain't Iraq. This ain't Libya. These are Persians who have a fucking centuries and centuries of fighting spirit. Man, you guys, you don't know. I mean, judging by your own words, you don't know the history. I mean, for God's sakes, Iran would in less than 2 weeks. Not exaggerating. 2 weeks. Same thing for Saudi Arabia. Who buys more American-made weapons? Saudi Arabia than any country on the face of the earth. And they don't have a standing military. They have a small military, but they use us. Just like Israel uses us to fight their wars. Israel's not tough. Yeah, it's tough. Let's cage this group of indigenous people, and these are their own citizens, by the way. They were born there. Let's cage these people because they might be terrorists, and since they're terrorists and they don't have a standing military, let's use military checkpoints, police checkpoints. Let's actually use informants to infiltrate these groups. Use them, use their information, and basically try and disseminate them and destroy them. But we can't really destroy them because without Hamas and Hezbollah, we can't get away with what we want to do. Tough.
Really need our help. This is about morality. This is about decency. This is about unifying around being anti-terrorists.
Well,
how?
I can make the argument, sir, that Israel is the precipitator of terrorism in this instance. That Hamas isn't alone. In fact, what Israel had done in response to October 7th clearly and overblows the precedent of what happened, of what Hamas could ever do. 50,000 dead Palestinians, 1.6 million Gazans out of Gaza and Gaza City, expelled to Egypt and Jordan, forcibly expelled their land. The Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran could never do this. But Israel can. And like I said, what is the definition of terrorism? The definition of terrorism is an individual or organization that uses violence to achieve a political goal or aim. Nowhere does it say Islam. Nowhere does it say Christianity. Nowhere does it say Judaism. Because terrorism is attributed to any individual under those guidelines, under those constructs, if they choose to do so and engage in it. And like I said, I can make the obvious argument that the Israeli government engages in terrorism. And we're seeing it right now. This is why your argument fails. Because if you're going to say that the 50,000 that were killed are basically Hamas supporters, the next question I'm giving you in a debate setting is, can you prove that? No, you can't.
Can you not see that? Terrorists aren't a government. They're not a civilized government.
Really? The 2003 invasion of Iraq by the United States and the coalition partners was based on a single lie. A Libyan terrorist who headed the Chaldean training camp. I know you don't know this, but his name was Ibn Sheikh al-Libi. Before the CIA detention and torture program went into effect by the State Department, they actually asked the Egyptians to detain him. And they did. And to elicit information that basically agrees with the State Department and an Israeli narrative, is to try to connect Iraq to the 9/11 attacks. It's not a conspiracy. This was actually talked about in the White House State Department. They even made a subsection of the White House called the Office of Special Plans, headed by Douglas Feith and Paul Wolfowitz. Dual Israeli nationals like Richard Pearl, right? So they basically facilitated information. So they tortured this guy, Ibn Sheikh al-Libi. He told them, yes, Iraqi Ba'athist officials were working with al-Qaeda and procuring chemical and biological weapons. That information went to the CIA. The DCI, George Tenet, went to the Secretary of State, Colin Powell, and said, this is what we got. Colin Powell went to the United Nations Security Council and said to the world, this information is true, and basically showed to prove what the information was true. He put cartoon cutouts of caves that were made to look like they were laboratories. Cartoons. Not exaggerating. The United Nations said, well, it's not enough evidence, but it's enough evidence to go to war, and they did. In fact, in April of 2003, we invaded Iraq, and then 8 to 10 years later, we basically killed 1.6 million based on a lie. Civilized government did this, knowingly coming into the information later that, yes, all the information was based on a falsehood, a forced confession that wasn't even true. But we're already at war. Let's just keep going. A war that was supported by Israel and the United States government. Your moral governments. Yeah. But you don't need to know the history.
They're not another country. They're not ever gonna be our allies. They hate you because of what you believe in. So some of you have changed your beliefs and aligned yourselves with terrorists. They would skin you the fuck alive for even thinking half of the shit that you think on a daily basis. They don't believe in liberalism. They don't believe in equality. If you were a woman over there, right, you wouldn't be able to go to school. Holy shit.
Have you seen what Christian-dominated societies treat their women? Need I remind you of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, the Baptists in Nigeria. They practice witchcraft even. They burn heretics with tires. Have you seen what Israeli settlers do to their women? Make them wear $2 clothes and have multiple babies and stay at home. It seems like you never studied anything other than your narrow view of the world. And this is the problem with the people of the left and of the right, the Christian and the Muslim and the Jew and the people of the Republican Democrat parties. It's like you guys basically only look at the world through a very skewed, narrow lens. And you hate each other for it, but yet you have one thing in common. You're all the same. But you actually believe you're all different. And what ties you all is the same as you're all human, but you're all confused.
And to the people on the right, because this is for both of you. I've seen people on the right thinking that they're fucking historians and they figured out that fucking this is actually something that should be done because of whatever reason, right? You fucking ignorant people too. You can all kick rocks. I've blocked more of you than I've blocked liberals.
Rhinos, right? The ones who don't go far enough. Don't push the Christian faith far enough, right? These people. Now you're talking about?
In the past 2 days. Because once again, we can circle back, take a Jen Psaki and circle back to the fact that I am watching it. I'm watching what's happening, and so should you. You can't ever justify it. These are sons, daughters, mothers, and fathers, and brothers, and sisters, and you think that because you know the history of the conflict in the Middle East, you think that you can say, well, that's just because... Fuck you too.
See? His mind is already made up. His mind is made up. Fuck the history. Fuck understanding other people's thoughts on things. It's my way or the highway. And Guy, you are going to... If you debated Dave Smith, you would get absolutely wrecked within 5 minutes. You would get wrecked. Because he's done this enough times to the point where, he knows, a lot about the history of this issue. And you don't. And I'm not saying that you don't. You said it yourself. I don't need to know the history. Well, buddy, you're going to have a real hard time accepting the fact that this world isn't black and white. And judging by this video and what you write on Twitter, you're already in conflict with yourself.
I don't know how we're going to get back there, but we really do need to get back to September 12th, 2001. And I hope it doesn't take a September 11th. I hope it takes people like me and everyone else that I'm seeing on here who's actually preaching the truth to wake you the fuck up so we don't have to go through that again. Never forget my ass.
You know what's interesting, and I'm not going to bore you anymore, that video spoke of itself, right? Found out later, going through this guy's profile, I said he fits the profile of the very people that I argue with in the 9/11 Truth Movement. And there's a connection with these people. And the more rabid they are regarding conspiracy, what I call fringe conspiracy, you'll hear me say that time and time again, there's always a connection between politics and religion, and also where they get their information from. And would you have it? Here's a guy that basically, for those in the know, right? For those in the know who are basically, what they're about regarding 9/11 truth, where they get the information from. You know what I'm talking about, right? Well, voila, right? Look at this. Look at this. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., I'll be on InfoWars. wherever you'll find a 9/11 fringe conspiracy theorist, wherever you'll find a rabid fanatical Christian, evangelical Christian, you will find Alex Jones, InfoWars, Adam King, Jerome Corsi, Roger Stone, Stu Peters, all of these disinformationalists in the same light as CNN and MSNBC and all the networks of the left, right? But there's no such thing as the ultimate game is they believe there's a left and right, but to those outside of it, no, there never was to begin with. They're all the same, but they do this in the hopes of fracturing the community, the human community, and it's working. That's what this guy's about. He hates the very people who think just like him will fly into the public place. That's it. He believes it because he has to. Because for him, the horrifying reality is accepting that everyone's the same and that we're all one consciousness and we are one human being. He couldn't live with that because then he isn't special. But the opposite effect is the reality is he is special because he is a single guy. He's of a he's a singular person within the human community, and he has hopes and dreams just like everybody else. He's not the enemy. The people who made him believe this way are. So to you, Misfit Patriot, you're a victim. Now, you're not the actual enemy that you claim others to be. All right. That's the end of this video. See you next video, everybody. Take care.